Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Austin Sora. Originally from Toronto, Canada, Austin was most recently seen in the North American tour of the Phantom of the Opera. Prior to that, she was a company member with Bruce Wood Dance for 3 years. Austin is also the development associate at Artists Striving to End Poverty, a New York City-based organization that connects visual and performing artists with children in under-resourced communities, teaching important life skills through the arts. Please enjoy Austin Sora. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Austin Sora. I am super excited to chat with her about creativity, and she knows Max, our fearless sound engineer. So maybe we'll hear some fun things about Max as well, because I know they were on tour together with Phantom of the Opera. But before I get too far into that, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! We are so excited to have you. And why don't you just take a couple of minutes and share a little bit more with our listeners about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Austin Sora, and I am a dancer. I recently toured with the Phantom of the Opera, and I also work for a nonprofit called Artists Striving to End Poverty, which is an arts education nonprofit that provides free arts workshops for children living in under-resourced community to teach them life skills that they need to thrive. So kind of in two worlds at once, and I've kind of have two simultaneous careers, which has been unexpected, but I love it.
That's awesome. And oh my gosh, what an amazing nonprofit organization to be a part of and get to share incredible skills and tools with individuals who want them, need them, benefit from them. So
yeah, thanks. It's been a journey. I really enjoy working for them, and I feel like I learn a lot every day. So very grateful.
Wonderful. Great. Well, since we're here to chat about creativity, I'm just going to dive right in. And when you think about creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
So I've been thinking about this, and it's hard because I feel like my answer is very cliche, but maybe not. I think that creativity is just a way of living and a way of being in the world where you see challenges as opportunities to think outside the box and to come up with solutions that are new and exciting, and to see challenges as something that you're excited to tackle as opposed to something that's limiting.
Nice. I love that idea of creativity is a way of living. And so do you feel like it's your way of living? Like you live creatively?
I like to think so. I think that for a long time as a dancer, a lot of people refer to me as being an artist. And for some reason that never really resonated with me, because I always had this idea of artists being very like free spirit, living in the wood. I don't know why. I know that's not anything to do with being an artist, but for the longest time, that was my definition. And I thought, I'm not an artist. But the word creativity, it really resonated with me, because I thought, oh yeah, I'm a creative person and I work in a creative field. And if I'm not in a creative field, I can still approach whatever I'm doing creatively. So I do like to think that I bring creativity to any situation that I find myself in. And I think that my dance training definitely has a lot to do with that. But I think outside of that, I think I'm just creatively inclined, and that's just how I like to make my way through life.
Nice. I know. It's amazing how stereotypes or our history around, like you were saying, the word artist doesn't resonate with you, but the word creative or being creative does. And I just think, like, what an interesting study that would be around like all the words that essentially mean the same thing. in the world of creativity. So artist, creative, I know there are a million others, but those are the two that we're chatting about right now. But yeah, just to think like, oh, that word doesn't resonate with me. I can't feel authentically myself or fully embody what it means to be an artist, but I can fully embody what it means to be creative. So,
right. And if you think too that an artist is just someone who lives creatively, then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. But yeah, it's just kind of whatever you want it to be, which is really great.
Yeah, the boundaries. There are no boundaries. It could be whatever you can, so many people say it's about thinking outside the box. And I feel like it's kind of the both and. Yes, it is thinking outside the box. And there are times where creativity has some really strong boundaries that we're working within.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and sometimes this is so funny that you bring up boundaries, because I feel like when I was in college, we had an improv class where we learned, dance improv, and it was always really intimidating to me. And one of the, I guess, units or topics that we studied was the power of limits, and how when you put limitations on yourself, how that kind of spurs up new creativity and new options, and it opens the doors because you're kind of solving a problem instead of just like floating around and dancing. So I think that boundaries and limits are really powerful in the dance context, but also just in life. And I think that's when people's creativity can come out the most.
Totally. Yeah. When you are faced with or put in a situation where you have to think about it in a new way or try something in a new fashion, it helps you stretch or kind of expand your comfort zone. And it might not be comfortable the first time, but maybe the fifth time you have a little more belief that you can do it. And yeah, I love that idea of kind of stretching or growing as you try something new. I think that's really important.
And I always say that my goal in life is to kind of keep expanding my comfort zone and to just be comfortable living outside of it.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. Yes. We're not necessarily being comfortable, but accepting that that's where the growth happens. And so just to keep putting yourself outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, trying new things, giving yourself permission to say, yep, that is outside of my comfort zone. And I can still try it. I trust myself enough, or the person that I'm doing it with, I trust them enough that this will be okay.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a disaster, and that's okay.
Oh my God. Yes. I can't tell you how many times you have this idea and it's outside your comfort zone and you try it and you think, oh, nope, total crap.
Yeah. Exactly. But you know what? You always make it through. And that's kind of what I guess the practice of going outside your comfort zone teaches you, is that nothing is ever the end of the world, like it might feel in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, what a great reminder. Just to remember, in the moment, it could feel like the biggest, scariest thing. And 10 minutes later, it won't. Like we can tolerate, our ability to tolerate and make it through challenge and difficult moments. We're incredibly resilient individuals, and just being human, we are resilient and being able to navigate that. Oh, I love it. I thank you for bringing all of that up. I think it's awesome.
Of course.
Yeah, which kind of leads me right into my next question around kind of, challenges or blocks that you have experienced in creativity or with creativity, and then how did you navigate them?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that the biggest one, of course, that comes to mind is this whole year, the pandemic, and how it's disrupted everybody's lives, specifically from a dancer performer standpoint. All the theaters are closed, all the dance studios are closed. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, I was very unmotivated to dance in any capacity, because to be honest, it just made me sad. It was kind of like a reminder that it wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing. I don't want to be dancing in my bedroom on carpet in a pair of socks, like dodging my bed. It's not great. I hated it, to be honest. But then at the same time, I really, really, really miss dancing. And so it was kind of these two feelings that I was holding at the same time. And I think that I just sat with that for a little bit, and it was actually social media that brought me out of it, because I saw my peers finding joy in dance at home or wherever they were dancing that was not a dance studio. And I thought, oh my gosh, look at that spark. Like, they're feeling something. It must be possible. And I think I kind of had a mindset shift where I decided that whatever version of dancing I was going to be doing isn't a replacement for performing. It's not a replacement for taking a dance class in a studio, but that it was just it's a different type of outlet. And once I kind of separated the two, I was able to start taking virtual dance classes and, making up my own choreography. And it was really fulfilling. And I think that it's just so interesting because nothing changed other than my mindset.
But so powerful.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And I feel like I learned a lot about myself over that process.
Yeah. If you don't what did you learn? If you don't mind sharing a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think I just learned, or I think it was something that I already knew, but it just hammered home like the power of your mind and what it can completely, reshape how you're feeling and your outlook on life, because my situation didn't change. I was still in the same house, in the same room. And where I was really sad a month before, I was finding so much joy. And the only thing that changed was how I was approaching it, and how I was thinking about the situation. So I think that was a really powerful lesson that kind of kept me going for the rest of the year and up until today. So it was great.
That's amazing. And like, what an incredible skill and tool that you now have to say, like, I have the capacity and I have the control to look at my situation that I'm in through a different set of eyes, or through a different lens or a framework, and how impactful that can be and how it can help you get out of some kind of lower moments, sadness, and grief. I mean, I was just doing a post on social media around grief, and kind of we're in that holiday season and honoring the grief and the truth that has been this year. And it sounds like you're able to do that at the same time shifting how you were looking at it. So really acknowledging, yes, this is what it is, and I have the capacity to look at it through a different lens.
Right. Yeah. And that's also not to say that I'm negating all of the tragedy that's happened. And like, I think that's important too, to acknowledge that like it was helpful to sit in that sadness and the frustration for a little bit to kind of process what was happening, and not force myself to do something that I wasn't ready for. And I think that was also really helpful for me, and also really helpful for me to know moving forward that it's okay to not feel 110% every day. And you have to give 100% of whatever your 100 is that day.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're not creative if you aren't giving 110%. Yeah. I think there are times where I can get caught up in like, oh, I'm not giving my all, and it must mean I'm not creative. And then when I reflect back on like what I was doing, like, no, I'm a human being who is navigating life, and it's okay.
Exactly. And there was so much pressure, I think, at the beginning of the pandemic to be having these projects and learning these new hobbies and skills. And it was overwhelming. And I think that, a lot of people did end up learning new skills and hobbies, but it wasn't from a place of trying to keep up with everyone else. It was from a place of, I hope, a genuine curiosity.
Yeah. Or like, I want to fill my time, and this is something I've always wanted to do, and now I have the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's so great. Yeah. When you are, I mean, it just sounds like you have, I imagine, as a dancer, you started dancing fairly young, but that's a total assumption on my part. But when you
Right.
think about like being creative as a child or a younger human, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
It's actually really funny you ask that, because I am currently staying in my childhood home with my parents. And so I've had a lot of memories pop up that I had kind of stored
Yeah.
away. And I found some notebooks from when I was, I think, 5 or 6, and they're just full of stories that I used to write. And one of them was like, this is a story about a Zuzu man who lived in a hole, like
Oh,
as if that's like a normal thing. But I was reading them, and it was just so interesting to see, first of all, how I guess as a kid, you just don't judge yourself. There's no judgment involved with creativity. And so it's just kind of like, yes, it's a Zuzu man, of course. But they're all like that, and it's just, it's really kind of inspiring to look back and to see how willing I was to just kind of like dive in and explore whatever I was feeling and thinking, without any judgment. And I just enjoyed it. And so I think that was, finding those notebooks was a really good reminder of, how fun creativity can be, and how much joy it can bring. And yeah, it was just a really nice reminder. So I'm grateful for that.
yeah. I mean, I can only imagine what it's like to go back to your childhood home room and have those memories and have those things to ignite those memories that, yeah,
Yeah, and I found like a little, I want to say a book. It's like a couple of pages that my dad bound together to make it look like a book, and it's just like a little story that I wrote, and I drew the illustrations. And it's so funny though, because I remember making them, and I remember how exciting it was to have this project that I was working on. And so I was like, oh, these are great memories. I'm glad that we still have these.
that's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love hearing the stories about, earliest memory of being creative and how that shows up now. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious, do you still write, or has that kind of been set aside for other
Not in
creative?
any sort of like storytelling creative aspect in terms of like writing fiction, but
Mhm.
I guess I do still write. Since I work for ASTEP, I do write a lot of the emails that go out, and we always focus on storytelling
Mm.
in all of our fundraising efforts. And anytime that we want to share, any snippets from the classroom or anything, I think it really is helpful when people can hear it from a story perspective as opposed to just like a bunch of facts. And so um, that's kind of been a really neat outlet as well, like an unexpected unexpected creative outlet,
Yeah.
working for a nonprofit. So yeah.
Yeah, and kind of a unique way that your writing creativity shows up now in adulthood. I think that's
Exactly.
really cool too.
Yeah, and it's been fun, and it's been neat to kind of um, just explore different stories and hear people's experiences, whether it be volunteers or students or partners or whoever, and just to kind of piece them all together to make a cohesive, I guess, snapshot of the organization. So yeah, it's a neat kind of use of the other side of my brain in a way, but I guess it isn't the other side of my brain. It's just like it seems more logical, but I guess it's not. It's still very creative.
Yeah. And the storytelling piece, whether it's through writing or dance, I mean, it's still the same thing. You're still telling a story.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. And you're still sharing another perspective. And I guess that's also why I enjoy going to see shows
mhm.
and going to, reading books or whatever, is just learning about other people's experiences. And yeah, when it's done artfully and creatively, that's just like the cherry on top. So
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And yeah, the pandemic, not being able to go to theater and be an audience member has definitely been a huge hole in my world right now as
for
well.
sure,
So,
yeah. And I think that I've also been really inspired by the theater and dance community in their
mhm.
ability to shift, to make, as much as it's not, like I was saying earlier, a replacement, to still be able to find a different medium to kind of share stories and share work and support each other. I've really enjoyed all the streaming shows and performances that I was able to see so far this year, because it really does feel like there's, that part of my life is missing.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful that they were able to pivot and still, I still feel connected to that world in some way, even though I'm just sitting here in my childhood home.
Right, watching it on a screen. And
exactly.
But that's kind of, it doesn't replace live theater or live dance or art, but for right now, it's what we've got, and I'll take it, because I too have been able to see shows and productions of things that I may not have been able to see, not living in the epicenter of the performing arts.
Yeah. And along those lines, I've also been able to take class from teachers who are not in the same country as me, or not in the same city. And that's been really cool.
Yeah.
So I think it's really neat that this virtual space kind of eliminates any geographic boundaries, because we can connect with anyone. Like right now, we're not in the same place.
Exactly. I know. I love it. I know. I've been able to connect with people all over the world to record podcast episodes, and like, what a gift that has been, because I definitely wouldn't be able to do that in person.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful for the technology. And I love hearing about the things that inspire you, and the community, the dance and theater community's ability to kind of pivot and continue to provide inspiration. Mm-hmm. Is there any one or any other things that inspire you these days?
Yeah, I think that getting back to what I was talking about with the nonprofit I work for, ASTEP, I think it's been really wonderful to be working so closely with all the other staff members. It's a pretty small staff. I think there's maybe 7 or 8 of us, and everyone is just so committed to the work and so thoughtful about how we can use the arts to impact these kids and to give them hope and skills for the future. And but with that said, nobody ever shows up thinking that they have all the answers. And so it's been really inspiring to see these people who I think are brilliant to show up and ask questions and be curious and be humble. And I think it's been really neat to work with them to see how thoughtful they are, and about creating new programming, about creating new communication, creating, these systems. And so I think that, I don't know, they've just been wonderful through this whole thing. And I feel like I've gotten to know them a lot better. And so it's really neat when you get to work with people who inspire you.
Yeah.
So it's been really wonderful.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like such a neat program that people are excited and inspired to be a part of, and figure out creative ways to support individuals who are struggling or experiencing challenge in their life right now.
Yeah. I first volunteered with them when I was in college still, and I taught dance in a 6-week summer program for refugee youth who recently arrived in the US. And the program was to prepare them for the US school system. And so I taught dance to a group of kids who really, most of them couldn't speak English. And so it was really neat to be able to communicate in a nonverbal way. And so that's kind of how our programming usually goes. And with this year, we've had to shift our programs online, and we've also been talking to our partners about what they need, and they have new needs this year, and so we've also been able to shift and provide food donations for these communities, and PPE donations, and that's been really neat. And just to see everyone being so thoughtful in what they're doing and being so creative and adapting to the times, because it was already, I think, creative to be using to teach life skills in this way. and then to be pivoting to be even more creative to meet the needs of the moment. I've just been really inspired.
Yeah. And I mean, what a gift to be able to say, oh, the needs that we need to fill are actually look different right now. And to put it out to community and say, okay, what are the needs? And then how can we creatively adjust and fill them? I mean, what an incredible organization to be able to A, recognize that, and then B, continue to provide services and support.
Yeah, it's been really neat to be a part of and to see in real time everything happening. And that's also just a lesson that I kind of have taken with me, is to not assume what people need, but to ask them, whether it be in this situation with a nonprofit, or even just like with my friendships, like or my family. Like it's such an important lesson that I don't know why I hadn't really thought on it very much before. But you don't know what other people need. And so that's something that has been kind of a revelation to me, which is, it's so funny because it's not that big of a thought, but it has made such a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I'm going to say this in like big general terms, but we as a Western civilization aren't really concerned about what other people need. We're concerned about what we need. And so to kind of go outside of ourselves and ask someone, well, what do you need? Versus thinking, oh, I know what you need, is a really big shift. And it is a big lesson to start to incorporate into your life. It's one that, even now talking about creativity and putting this podcast out and thinking of other ways that I can support people in sparking creativity in their own life, my version in my head of what I think other people want around creativity may not actually be true. So,
yeah, well, it's something that you can apply to anything. And like you were saying, everybody knows what they need, and they don't always have the opportunity to ask for it.
Yeah.
So to give someone that opportunity in whatever space you're in can be really impactful.
And so empowering, I feel like, to have someone ask and then listen to it is the other thing. Because if we don't listen, if we ask the question and then choose not to listen to the response, that's not going to help us.
That's not great.
Yeah, that's not great. So I think that is also, such a incredible opportunity around communication and practicing communication, that we're actually talking and listening.
Right. And then I guess when you hear what their answer is and what they need, that's when the creativity comes into play, that you can be like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make this happen?
Absolutely.
So it's exciting. I think it's a really, like you said, empowering way to go about making change and just, doing your part.
Absolutely. And I think our society community could use a little bit more of that, asking what are the needs and then how do we creatively meet them or provide things for other people. And so I'm excited for more of that to happen. Not only, it sounds like, in this program that you work with, but also in my podcast and in the creativity components that I do and the workshops or programs that I offer to people.
Yeah, it's been
creativity.
Such a game changer for me in just everything that I do. And I think even I teach dance as well. And, I'll ask my students, like, how does this feel? What do you need? And even just like that little shift in it just has been so helpful. And so I recommend it to anyone.
Excellent. I'm sure. Yeah, I second that recommendation, asking people what they need and how we can support them. I think that's the other piece too. Yeah. And it just sounds like you have such an incredible community with this nonprofit. And I know that being on tour, that in and of itself creates a community pretty instantly. But when you think about your community, how do they impact or influence your creativity?
So I think that they just in any community that I'm a part of, I think I like to take little snippets of people here and there and just apply it to my own life. But I think that I've been really inspired to see specifically the performing community, how they've been able to shift. And so many of my friends have created their own businesses or have started online ventures or services that, you know, they've delved in deep inside and found these skills that they have that are unique to them, and they've been able to market themselves and monetize and be making a living. And it's just really inspiring to see. You know, artists are so great at being adaptable, and so it's been amazing to see how they've shifted and been creative this year.
Yeah.
And have kind of, you know, found another way to be living right now, that's still so creative, and that's really, really inspired me. So I'm in awe of everybody.
I love it. Yeah, it is amazing to witness someone else, you know, completely change or like really start to believe in the skills and tools that they have and that they're worth sharing in a new platform or a new avenue.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been so inspired. I actually started my own online venture. It's called Studio A, and it's kind of came out of the thought that there are so many training programs to help dancers become dancers and learn how to dance. But after those are done, there's nothing to teach you the logistics of the business in terms of creating a resume or finding an agent or anything like that. And so I've created an online hub, or have a hub of information, if you will.
Yeah.
Right now it's just a blog and an Instagram page, but it's been a really neat little community that's slowly growing. And I feel like I've connected with a lot of young dancers who are starting out in their career, or people who are already working and have you know, come together to share their resources. But it's been really neat. And I think that came out of the community around me and just looking to see what everyone is doing and just feeling inspired to create something of my own, and to look at, you know, what I wish there were.
Yeah.
And to make it.
That's amazing. I mean, I so needed in the performing arts, because I know when I went to acting school, I think had a class on like the business of acting. And it wasn't really nuts and bolts. It was kind of like, oh, you do a showcase and then you get an agent. But how often does that happen? That
Right.
you have one and done. And so, yeah, I mean, that's an incredible resource for people, for the dance community and people stepping into dance as a career that you're providing. So congratulations on launching that. That's huge.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And again, I feel like it's taken a lot of creativity, and I'm just, I've actually been having meetings every other week with a couple other dancers who have started their own businesses, and we cheer each other on, and, you know, we keep each other accountable, and it's been really neat. And it's cool to connect with dancers in a new way outside of just performing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that it's been so inspiring to see how everyone has shifted. And even within my own community that I'm slowly building, it's really inspiring to see how everybody is so willing to learn and to better themselves, and to take this time to get the ducks in a row for when the industry opens up again. So it's been really neat. And I think it all came from seeing everyone in the dance community and how creative they've been able to be. And it's really just kind of sparked something in me.
Wonderful. Well, I love it. And I hope more people now can find it. Studio A. That's amazing. And I know we'll put that in show notes and whatnot. And you've kind of talked a little bit about this just in experiencing everyday life. And when you think of kind of everyday issues that you have had to navigate, how have you used creativity to solve some of these everyday issues?
So I think one of the biggest issues early on in the pandemic was, how am I going to fill my time now? And I guess I had done that with ASTEP, and I had done that with Studio A and taking online classes. And I feel like that was all happening kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And around the same time, I started teaching beginner ballet classes to some of my friends, which has been really fun, people who have never danced before. And my one friend asked if I could teach her privates in addition to our weekly group class. And I was like, sure, yeah, I would love to. And she said, I don't know if I'll be able to pay you, because she's also a performer. She's a musician. And I met her on Phantom as well. She was in the orchestra pit.
Nice.
And so she said, is there anything, like, could we do an exchange? And so she started teaching me piano in exchange for my ballet classes. And so every week we have our Zoom call where I teach her an hour of ballet. She teaches me an hour of piano, and we've kept it going since June, I think.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It's been such a great new creative outlet that I've always wanted to learn piano my whole life. And I've just never had the time or the opportunity to really commit to it.
Yeah.
It was never a priority. And so it's just been so neat to be able to commit myself to learning this new skill and to be sharing what I love with someone who is passionate about what she's teaching me. So it's been such a fun, creative exchange. And I feel like it's been so fulfilling to see her growth and to, see how quickly and how much she's been able to teach me. So it's been a nice little side project. I feel like this whole year, the theme is just projects and side gigs, but, but the ones that I have, I'm so grateful for. And I really do feel fulfilled by them, I think, because they are all rooted in creativity.
Yeah. And what an incredibly creative problem solving or solution to an everyday issue of like not necessarily having the finances to take weekly piano lessons or weekly private ballet classes. And sometimes you just have to ask, like you just have to put it out there. And I think more
I'm so glad that she did, because I think as much as money is great, like this is something that is also so valuable.
Yeah.
And that I've gotten so much joy out of. So I'm so glad that she did ask.
Yeah, I love it. I think it makes me think of like, oh, who could I do that with? That would be super fun to be able to.
Or even like another skill, like if you want to learn, I don't know, like gardening or something like
that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a great, like right now, finances for many people are really tight. And is there opportunity to do trades, have more flexibility and more creativity around that
and it's also a creative way to stay in touch with a friend too.
Yes.
Instead of, of course it started out as a 2-hour lesson, and now we of course chat, and so it's usually becomes 3 or 4, but but it's a great excuse to get together, and I think it's like a creative Zoom call.
Yeah. No, I think it's such a great solution to an everyday issue. And I love it.
Thanks. Nice. I love it too. It's been so much fun.
That's amazing. No, I think more people should do it. And I think that would be an incredible way to learn so many things. And
it's been great. And it's been nice to be creative together too, because I think that a lot of the other projects that I'm doing, mostly Studio A, it's primarily just me being creative by myself on my computer, or, dreaming up different things I could do or different blog posts. But it's been nice to be creative in a more collaborative way, because I think that just sparks more inspiration and more motivation. And it's just been really nice to have that connection, especially now.
So true. I know it's definitely having the interview on the podcast is inspiring and helpful in terms of my own creative spark and the things that other people are sharing, how it inspires and sparks me. Because I think if I were just talking myself, it would get a little mundane after a while. So I like the collaboration with the interview experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure for you, like everybody brings something new, and
absolutely.
And and I'm sure it makes you want to be more creative as well. So it's Yeah.
I feel so inspired talking to people about creativity. And then I want to share that with other people and, developing. It comes back to like, oh, then how do I do that? And well, what do people need around creativity? And so
Right.
asking people that, what do
Yeah,
you need?
no, it's such a great idea for a podcast. And I've listened to a couple and I've really enjoyed them all. So I'm so glad that you are doing this.
Well, thank you so much for listening. I love it. It's been so much fun. And and thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I have one final question for you.
Yeah.
What is your secret to creativity?
Ooh, what is my secret to creativity? I think just start. I think that's the biggest thing with any project. If there's something that you're thinking of doing, if there's something, there's an idea that's there and you don't quite know what the first step is or how to go about doing it, I think just starting is the hardest part, and often the part that is just a domino effect after too many metaphors. It's a domino effect, because I just feel like for myself, when I have an idea, if I'll write it down and that will just lead to another idea. And I feel like that's just like when you're in the zone like that, it's just the best feeling. And you can only get there by starting. And so I think that's just my biggest secret to creativity is just start.
I love it. You can only get there by starting. I mean, that's profound and huge and oddly simple.
So simple.
I know, right? Exactly. Well, thank you for sharing your secret to creativity and all of your other tips and tools and reminders. I so appreciate them. And if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about all of the awesome things you have going on, how would they go about doing that?
For sure. So my website is austensora.com, and that's where Studio A's blog also lives. I'm also on Instagram at austin.sora. And if you want to learn more about ASTEP, you can visit us at astep.org.
Perfect. That's incredible. Well, thank you again for taking the time. This has been such a treat.
Yes, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I feel like I learned so much.
I love that. I love when that happens.
Yeah, I love it too. It's great. I'm so inspired.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so like us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and your family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your comments, reviews, and questions. Tune in Tuesdays for a new episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.